Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi joins us this time. He is an economic historian. We'll be taking a look at the 2013 budget. Yes, the implementation part of it. Morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much.
Well, you know, one of the challenges we always have here is about implementation of the budget. We hear all shades of opinion from bookmakers, professionals about the level of implementation. But you know, what people out there want to see is how this has impacted the economy, the welfare, the well-being of the average person out there. Is there any way you can connect the dots in terms of what they say about how much they've implemented that budget and the stark reality on the ground?
Actually, it will interest you to note that when people speak concerning the implementation of the budget, they may decide not to be circumspect about it. Actually, the budget is not a statement of intention to only build and construct things, which is reflected in the capital budget. The budget is the totality of the recurrent budget, the capital budget, and transfer with respect to the payment of Nigeria's debt, amortization. So when the recurrent budget is fulfilled, and most of the time, the recurrent budget of the Nigerian Federation is between 18 and 90% of the total expenditure of government.
So when they say they've implemented it up to 80%,
yes,
they're just paying salaries.
Oh, they're paying salaries. That's part of budget. That's part of budgeting. And of course, we even have the recurrent implication of capital budget. So if you build a university, for example, you have got to pay all the teachers there. And now, if you now have a university in which you build only the buildings and teachers are not paid, reagents are not bought in the laboratories, equipment are not bought, and of course, libraries are not serviced, then you don't have a university. So if you have a government that implements the budget, first, the recurrent budget, 80% of it, even 100% of it, that's good implementation.
Can they get 100%?
Yes, a 100% implementation of the budget may not be absolutely possible, especially with the fact that the budget itself is a statement of an intent to earn as it is an intent to spend. So if there's no correlation between your earning and your estimate, it affects your spending. It's as simple as that. But unfortunately, Nigerians may be a little edgy when it comes to the capital budget. They want to see the roads. As far as they are concerned, they want to see the electricity. They want to see the universities were maintained, were run. And as far as they're concerned, they want to see all the equipment bought. You see? But they actually forget that people are earning some salaries, overhead costs are paid, personnel costs are handled, and this goes on smoothly. Of course, it's understandable. People want to see Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, for example, well-tarred, double lanes or quadruple lanes. That's right.
After all, they pay their tax.
After all, they pay their tax.
For those of them who do.
Of course. Well, pay as you earn in Nigeria, of course, is plus 1 minus 2 when it comes to tax, because how many Nigerians, apart from civil servants, actually go consciously to pay their taxes?
You know, it's very surprising that you're almost doing this line because you're from the academia as well. And
yes.
we're seeing the battles that we're having with different unions, especially ASU.
Yes.
You know, ASU reached an agreement with the federal government in 2009, and they're asking for a particular amount of money. And we're asking, are you sure we really can afford it? The federal government is saying, no, we can't. We can't afford to give you 92 billion. Instead, we release this amount of money. Yes. And we're thinking that over time, we should be able to reach some agreement. Do you think that the federal government really can afford what it is that ASU is asking for?
Oh, absolutely. The federal government can afford that. Well, now, why not trying to represent ASU here? Because I have no such authority. Only the president, the comrade Issa Fage, can do that, or my chairman in Ife.
I understand that, but I'm just asking you to use your knowledge in budgeting. Yeah.
Okay, no problems. We can speak generally with respect to the capacity to pay. The federal government has the capacity to pay. See, the sincere thing that people need to know is that we have not been blocking leakages. If we do block leakages, then there will be enough to pay academics. There will be enough to pay medical doctors who are threatened to go on strike now. We pray they don't. But then the fact is this. Once we block leakages, for example, to maintain the presidential fleet, this year alone, in the Nigerian budget, 9.02 billion naira, maintaining presidential fleet. Now, it comes to...
Is that not a statement of intent?
That's a statement of intent. But you see, when we look at the implementation of the budget, the implementation profile, last year, it was 8.7, and it was spent to the full. This year, 9.02 billion. And I'm sure it's going to be spent to the full. You see, But you do not have, and the same budget that cannot accommodate 92 billion naira for university teachers, for example, who are actually 37,504 in number.
For earned allowances.
For earned allowances,
that is aside the salaries.
That's aside the salary,
which is
course.
already one overhead. So
Yes.
we have to be able to say that this is in addition to whatever it is they're already getting.
Okay, but we also need to add that this is actually work already done. We are not asking for things that will be done in the future. It was actually the work that has actually been done. I mean, you don't start after a worker has already done the work and you say, no, let's talk about the allowances that we've negotiated 4 years ago. You don't do that. Honor, it stops you from doing that.
And Doctor, you have it on record that was spent to the full.
8.7 billion. Of course, it was spent yet last year, 2012 budget. This year, 9.02 billion in maintaining presidential fleet. The same budget has accommodated 1.2 billion naira for feeding. Feeding how many people in the presidential palace?
No, was it just the presidential palace? I don't think that was the way they captured it.
Of course, it will be in the presidency. We may not call it palace, we call it a villa. But then that's the truth.
Okay, but if we look at the overall performance of the budget, because most times when people talk about the budget,
yes,
we're fixated on the executive arm of government, the budget.
Yes.
What about the states here?
The states.
They play a major role in how the economies function, because, I mean, the federal government won't implement their budget in the air.
At the level of the states.
At the level of the states. The states come up with theirs. How about those ones?
That's a point well made. But do not forget also that Nigeria is a federation. Nigeria is a federation of states. You have 774 local governments too, 36 states, and an FCT. What that means is that the Constitution has decided to concede to the states the power to handle their own budget separately. Yes, the states have the capacity to, maybe, for example, budget for education, health, social development, etc., etc. And we have seen some very, very beautiful performances in states like Akwa Ibom, in Osun State, for example. I mean, in Lagos State, you could see evidence of governance in those states. And that's what we pray that some states copy. They should copy them. I mean, people should look, development should not follow politics. It should be the reverse. Politics should follow development. If you see a good thing, it does not matter the political party in power. Elites always agree when it comes to the use of power.
Oh.
But
yeah, you know, I raise that because we're looking at the big picture, which is ultimately about the performance of the economy.
yes.
Because at the end of the day, if all these budgets are implemented as it ought to be, states, economies of states will be buoyant. You won't have them depend so much on this allocation coming from the center. You have economic activities going on in some of those states, and that the private sector will be properly strengthened. But are we focusing on those states enough?
Actually, it's because we have a skewed fiscal system. A fiscal system that makes 36 states to depend on just one center, the federation account.
Can we
Section
change
162, of course we can. We have the capacity to make our fatherland better than it is. We have that capacity.
What should we
the problem
do?
is very good. Redraw the map of power sharing in Nigeria. Let me give you one instance. Under the exclusive preserve of the federal government in the Constitution, I mean, the 1999 Constitution as amended, the federal government alone has 82 powers. Powers over 82 things, including things as ridiculous as stamp duties, betting, things that has to do with little things. You know, even the federal government is trying to go into primary education through TET fund, but it was stopped by ASU. Now, you have a federal government that wants to cover all the field. Everywhere. The federal government wants to do all the things, but it does not want to be held responsible for anything. That's what the problem is. We can redraw the power sharing formula in favor of the states and the local government. Make them responsible.
Okay, if we say the federal government wants to do everything,
yes,
have we or anyone tried at any point in time
yes,
to remove some of these things from the exclusive list to the concurrence, and the
transfer?
federal government says no?
Oh, every time that we've had the opportunity of drawing the Nigerian Constitution, whether in the 1963 Constitution, the 1979 Constitution, and 1999, particularly the 1979 Constitution, that transferred most of these powers to the federal government, and the 1999 Constitution that consolidated it, the military were in power. Don't forget the antecedent of the military, acquisition of power.
What about in this democratic dispensation?
In this democratic dispensation, we've been going through the amendment of the Constitution. Thank God the National Assembly has succeeded in passing the first, the second, and the third amendment to the Constitution. That's right. but it has not tinkered significantly with the power sharing, because those that are to adjust the laws, amend them appropriately, are the beneficiaries of the same powers that we are crying that they should do so. I mean, there's no solution to a sovereign conference. That is the balance.
So for us, you know, to be able to get to a stage where we're implementing most of the budget, if not almost all of it, you know, we have to redesign the way our constitution is. Is that what you're saying in essence?
Beautiful.
Okay, now just quickly, let's quickly look at this year's budget. It would seem that we're experiencing a shortfall in terms of what we plan to earn, not because of the price of crude oil, which has been fluctuating but has been relatively stable, but because of oil theft. Do you see a way around that for us?
No one in this country has the authority to complain that because we have oil wealth, and therefore that's why we have shortage of revenue. What are the police doing?
Oil wealth or oil theft?
Oil theft.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oil theft. Yes. So is the federal government conceding, passing a vote of no confidence in itself by saying that the police cannot do its work? I mean, why do we have the Navy? Why do we have the custom, immigration? Why do we have all these, the capacity to enforce violence? I mean, those who bust our oil pipelines, they're violent, they're saboteurs. So the federal government cannot be hard to complain that with all the array of powers and the capacity to visit violence upon those people who are destroying our economy, that it has no such authority or is stopped from doing so. I mean, it's an abdication of responsibility. Go after them. I mean, why do we have governance? The federal government has no, it's stopped from complaining that it cannot do anything to oil theft. It should do something.
You know, while the challenge remains, you know, for the federal government to also sort themselves out, but we also, unfortunately, we're out of time. But the state now, because we do know that most of these state House of Assemblies barely hold their governors responsible. But and you say, development should follow politics, but in this case, politics is following development. If they don't hold them accountable, it's to the interest of the state and to themselves that their economies are buoyant. But this is not happening in some cases.
Oh, you're absolutely correct. That is one of the crises of Nigeria's federalism. A federal system run on party politics that tends, of course, to concentrate power in the hands of the executive. That's where the problem is. Then don't forget, these party, the houses of assembly of the states are constituted by political party loyalists and politicians who are want, of course, to see the governor and the government of a state as their government, rather than as an agent for social transformation. So they are most likely to hide the faults of their governor. At times, when it is necessary, they may not proceed against them.
We will have to bring you back. I'm afraid we're really out of time on this one because these are very important matters. Dr. Tunji Ogunyemi is an economic historian taking a look at the budgetary implementation across board. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's it for today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Thank you. I'm Maokwe Ogun.